Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Freelance Friday podcast. It's almost the new year, and that means it's time for some of my favorite videos. It's time to start doing some reflecting, some goal setting, some what went right, what went wrong, and that is exactly what today's episode is going to be about. Before I hop into it, though, I want to let you know that speaking of goal setting, I'm going to be hosting a live vision boarding workshop. I do this every year. It's so much fun. It's like a little party. I don't even want to say it's a workshop. Like, bring your tea, bring your vision boarding supplies, and we'll just chat and hang out. So I'm going to leave the details for that. You do have to RSVP, but it's totally free. I'll leave the details for that down in the show notes. But anyway, today's episode is going to be all about my 7 revenue streams and how they performed compared to, years past. Now, overall, I'll just say this year was down. This is the first year I've done one of these videos and reported a bit of a decrease year over year in revenue. And I want to talk about that before we really get too deep into each revenue stream. So first of all, I've talked about it. I've talked about it quite a bit in vlogs, not so much on the podcast, but this was quite a wild year for me personally. I had health stuff going on really for the first time in my life. I had some personal relationship stuff go on. And really, I'm actually quite proud of myself because it was the first year that I have prioritized my own well-being, my mental health, my physical health. And so I had to make some really, hard decisions, which we'll talk about how I was spending my time. And spoiler alert, a lot of it was spending time off or just spending time on personal projects and things like that. So there's that side of things, but I will also say that I have noticed different buying behaviors, things with the economy, just things that are, I guess you could say, trends in the online business world, in the digital marketing world that are not just related to my own personal stuff. So I want to address both of those things. And lastly, I just want to say that even though this was a bit of a lower year for me, I think it's so important that we put things into perspective. I was looking through the numbers, and number one, this is kind of the first big trend I'll say is my revenue is very similar to pre-pandemic revenue. If you started an online business in 2020, 2021, even 2022, and you're seeing a drop now in 2024, 2025, I don't want you to panic, honestly, because I think we had this kind of weirdly inflated economy for a number of reasons with the pandemic. So I would say that this year is actually more back to baseline and that I had a couple of overperforming years, if I had to hazard a guess. The other thing is, just speaking again to the personal side, I took so much more time off than I ever have before. And also, I'm making way more than I ever made in corporate. I am doing really, really well overall. So I think it is important to look at areas of opportunity, not to let us slip too far, right? I don't want to have a 70% revenue drop and be like, oh my gosh, but it's okay to kind of find that middle ground, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. All right. So first off, one of the biggest revenue streams for me is online courses. Online courses are generally about 40% of my total revenue. This year, online courses were down. Now, the reason they were down, number one, I think it's twofold. I think it's both of the topics that I just discussed. Number one, I have noticed a serious drop in evergreen sales. Now, evergreen courses, which are my courses that are just kind of always available, they're templates, that kind of thing. Those are largely driven just by SEO, by people searching for them, by people going to my website from Google, by YouTube referring, based off of evergreen video titles and things like that. And I would say straight off the bat this year, I just noticed I was getting a lot less sales that were kind of happening in the background. Historically, those sales have been really reliable for me. And though they aren't necessarily the biggest chunk of the course pie, they've always been like a consistent, all right, I can pay my bills this month just from evergreen courses. 2024 was different for me. And you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, I really would love to hear from you too if you're an online business, because again, I don't know how much of this is just situational in my personal life and how much of it is a greater trend, but I'd love to really have a discussion about it. So be sure to leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify if you care to share. But yeah, I have a few theories on it. I think one reason truly is AI. I think we're seeing that, why would you listen to a 5-hour course when you can just ask ChatGPT the answer? And I see this with YouTube videos too. I definitely notice that attention spans are lower. I get a lot more comments that are like, can you get to the point? Things like that. So I think that is a trend that's influencing it. I also think the online course industry kind of experienced, let's say, some bruising in that there was sort of this awakening of people who'd gotten scammed out of money from really shady get rich quick type course creators. And I think it really hurt the industry as a whole. So I think there were just some trends that happened, but there were also, again, personal things. I just really wasn't pushing them so much. I wasn't, just doing as much to sell them. So some things that I'm going to do in the year ahead to hopefully amplify this number. Number one, I'm going through and updating all the courses just to make sure that they are truly high quality and shareable. They're the type of courses that people want to send to their friends and recommend to people. I've been working on my affiliate program for the past 2 years, and I just have not still gotten it to a point where I feel like it is easy for people to share. So that's going to be on my to-do list as well. And then I think a really simple one is just working on your landing page and making sure that they are optimized for SEO, that they are up to date. I know a lot of my landing pages look super old school and just like not reflective of the content, just because honestly, I was a little complacent. They were kind of always on money makers for me. And so I didn't really feel the need to sell so much on my landing page. So that's something that I need to hunker down on. But I will say my cohort based courses, those were pretty consistent. I would say they were pretty much on par with last year's sales. I made the same amount from SMMA, my social media management accelerator, as I did in 2023. And so there's also that aspect of just live launching. I think really talking about your offerings is something that we just need to get used to doing again, hosting webinars again, things like that. I think we just can't get complacent and expect sales to just kind of fall at our feet anymore, or at least I can't. YouTube has never been a big moneymaker for me. Sometimes people are surprised to hear that. Not that I have the most, followers in the world, but it's like, you would think, I don't know, some people think that you make a lot more from YouTube than you do. This year, I think I'm going to be lucky if I hit 25K for YouTube AdSense. Now, again, I want to put things into perspective and just remember that there was a day and time when I was making $0 from YouTube. That is a nice chunk of change, so I don't want to undermine that. But if we compare that to years past, I think at the peak, probably in 2021, I want to say I was making like 50 grand, 48 grand, something like that, just from YouTube ads alone. So it is an adjustment. It's not to say I'm not grateful or anything like that, but it is an adjustment. My views have been a little bit down, but not anything too wild. There have been some back end things on YouTube that I think have changed. I also just think that people, again, are going back to sort of pre-2020 viewing habits. I've noticed just less engagement on YouTube. I have noticed a little bit of a drop in views. And also, again, to AI's point, I think a lot of people are being like, oh, let me just ask ChatGPT instead of watching Latasha's video if I have a question. So there has been a little bit of that. And then on the personal side, I just created less content. Not a ton. I've always stayed true to my Friday podcast, but there was a period of time, especially over the summer, where I was only doing the podcast, where I wasn't doing any additional videos. Compare that to years past, where at times I've posted 3 times a week, even more sometimes. So that is something that I'm going to be doing this year is I really just want to focus on YouTube this year. YouTube is my favorite part of my job. It is really responsible for the course sales, for a lot of the client work that I do. It's a huge part of my business, and it's the part of my business that I'm the most passionate about. And I think I have gotten to a point where I really have been overthinking YouTube in the worst way. When I first started YouTube, I was like, I'm just going to create stuff that's fun and that's reflective of where I'm at in my life right now. And what happened over time is there started to become this pressure with YouTube because I was like, okay, people expect this type of content out of me, or this type of content gets me the most money, views, clicks, whatever. And so I started to kind of like typecast myself, if you will, and put myself in a box. And part of that is just good business, yes. but I think you lose a little bit of that sparkle and desire to create. So I want to just have a little bit more fun with YouTube this year. And hopefully that will just encourage more views, a more engaged audience, and hopefully more ad revenue as well. Client work was down for me. And this was totally, I would say 100% my choice. I did get quite a bit of client inquiries this year, actually, without really trying, just coming from inbound marketing. So, YouTube videos, search engine optimization, referrals. I did get a lot of inquiries, a lot that I said no to. The biggest reason for this is because, again, where I was at, especially earlier in the year with my health, I just knew that I needed to prioritize rest, my health. And I also, you guys, I was dealing with this eye like inflammation issue where honestly I was unrecognizable some days. And my self esteem really went down the toilet. And so getting on client calls, for instance, was like a huge thing. Like it was a huge emotional hurdle I had to get over sometimes if I had to show up looking camera ready and getting ready to do a presentation. I just wasn't there mentally. I wasn't able to do it. And it was really hard to do YouTube as well. But the thing with YouTube is I could control when I was filming. But anyway, so that was a big reason for it. There was another thing that happened with client work this year too, that I was like, all right, I'm going to take a year off. Now, I did some projects here and there, but I didn't do a huge amount of projects like I did in years past. What had happened was, I had a former colleague reach out and want to work together on a one-off project. It was like a strategy kind of project. I did the project. I was so happy to do it. I got paid less than I asked, which was already, kind of a red flag. But I was like, no, I really want to work with this old colleague. I really want to work with this brand that they're working on. I did all of the deliverables and then some. I was very clear about the fact that I only had about 3 weeks to finish the project because I had travel for a speaking gig. We'll get to that in a little bit. And basically just massive scope creep to the point where I was doing, redoing what I had already done like 3 different times. The timeline got extended to like 5 or 6 weeks. So I was working while speaking and doing all these things. And you guys, I never got paid for that project. And this is somebody that I knew, and it's really disappointing. I'm not going to say that there weren't things that I could have done better or that I could have communicated better. I think I probably could have. I could have went further above and beyond, I guess, but I think there was just a fundamental misunderstanding of the relationship because I had previously worked with this person in a job. I think they reverted back to like, oh, this is your job, like work like this is your salary, and they were not respecting my boundaries in terms of business. So it really burned me, honestly. I was like, you know what? This is like too much for me again, emotionally this year. And I know what you guys are going to say. Well, why didn't you get paid for it? Why don't you sue them? Whatever. Honestly, that is too much work, which I know is like a privileged thing to say that I don't need to chase after this money, but I'm just like, that's more work for me to do that. Like I couldn't even do it. So that was a story. But yeah, so client work was down. I pretty much just worked with clients that I had already been working with from years past and just kind of like small projects. Membership. The membership was a revenue stream last year and it completely went away. I had it for 6 months of the year and then I closed down my membership. Now, I made a whole video about why I closed my membership. So I will link that for you if you want the whole tea. But long story short, it was totally personal. I had run a membership called the Freelance Friday Club for 5 years and I loved it. It was kind of like a passion project for me, but it never really made me a ton of money. And that's something that I need to figure out because I do want a membership again. I do want to reopen the Freelance Friday Club, but I do need to figure out how to make it more lucrative, frankly, because the amount of time that I was putting into Freelance Friday Club just didn't even out. And then when it came to the personal stuff that was going on, again, the eye stuff where I didn't feel comfortable showing up on camera and not just showing up, but showing up, being the loudest voice in the room, being the facilitator. That just wasn't a thing. Going through a divorce and trying to pretend to be all like super happy and, like knowing, all knowing, if you will. It was just a lot of pressure. So I just had to shut it down. So obviously that number went down. But yes, this year I would like to restart a membership just because it was such a valuable group. I think from a revenue perspective, it's nice to have always on recurring revenue. And of course, from a personal perspective, it was just really fun for me. I have felt quite lonely since I've closed it. Like I've had to go out of my way to find other ways to connect with other entrepreneurs because it was nice just seeing the same faces every week. So anyway, I got to figure that out, go to the drawing board. You let me know if you have any feedback on what you would want out of a membership or if you have a membership, what's worked for you, because I just have never really gotten that down. All right. Coaching now, on the other hand, went way up. I think was this my biggest coaching year ever? Coaching. This was my biggest coaching year ever. Wow. How was it my biggest coaching year ever? Wow. I worked with a lot of people. It kind of doesn't feel like it because it's been so much fun. Like it seriously has just been so much fun. I'm like looking at all these names. I'm like, I love him. I love her. I love him. I love her. It kind of replaced the Freelance Friday Club in terms of that interaction and that it was so nice just having calls on the calendar, catching up, having my cup of tea, and just doing really good work with people. And I've worked with a variety of people from other marketers and entrepreneurs who wanted to grow their businesses to people who work at nonprofits who are not in the place that they're able to hire a full-time social media manager, but just needed me for consulting a couple times a month. I worked with like a wide range of people and it's just been so much fun. And the funny thing is, I haven't like tried, it's funny how that happens sometimes. Like I haven't sent out emails promoting my coaching. Honestly, my website is really messed up. I'm going through a redesign of it. And so honestly, it hasn't even been super obvious how to work with me in a coaching capacity. So that inspires me a little bit that I can grow this revenue stream if I want to next year with a little bit of intention behind it. Because this year there hasn't been a lot of intention. It has been a lot of people who've taken courses or been in the Freelance Friday Club. That was a big push for a lot of people who were in Freelance Friday and decided they wanted to move to one-on-one. So yeah, I think that just speaks to the fact that I did a good job in those capacities, in the Freelance Friday Club and in my courses. And so I'm going to keep doing that and also keep working at bridging that kind of next stage for folks. Once they finish the accelerator, letting them know that this is available for them, reaching back out maybe 3 months later once they are probably in the place where they are ready to hire a coach, just things like that, just making sure that I message it, make it available for people. But yeah, it's definitely something I want to keep doing. It's brought me so much joy and I have seen just so many good results from it. People just doing amazing things and reaching their goals. And that makes me really proud and really happy. For a while, I was a little weird about coaching. Like I felt like there was this stigma, again, speaking to the kind of culture of online business and, all these like super scammy, predatory coaches. And so I think last year really hid from coaching. I was like, I'm not going to offer it because everybody who's a coach is a scammer. Well, I know that I'm not a scammer. I know that. And I have the results to back it up. I have the testimonials, the reviews to back that up. And also something that I did this year was I just made it really clear on the booking page that I don't want you to feel pressured to do this. I laid out my boundaries very clear. I think it says something like I'm not a therapist or lawyer. Therefore, I can't give you legal advice and I can't help you with, any conditions in that way. Because sometimes I think the lines get blurred between business coach and therapist and lawyer. And I just want to make it clear what lane I'm in. And I also put in the intake form, like, do you confirm that you can afford this and that you don't feel pressured into this financially? Like, I don't want you to be spending your last dollar on this. There were so many other ways to work with me for free or for low cost. So anyway, that kind of helped me get over that block. And I'm sure some people will still say, everybody who does coaching is a scammer, but I don't believe that's true. And I believe that I've really helped people and also had fun doing it. Brand deals, we're down. This kind of goes hand in hand with YouTube AdSense. So while YouTube AdSense has never been a huge moneymaker for me, brand deals have been. I think last year they were around 40% of revenue. They're close this year, but they were down in terms of dollar amount. And I think the reasons for that are similar. I produced less content. So there was that. I also think I was just less enthusiastic in my content. I don't know. I just think it didn't help, right? When you're going through stuff. I also got new management this year. And there are always some growing pains with that, I guess you could say, getting to know each other, starting new relationships, picking up on things, all of that. So that is a piece of it. Last year I was doing most of my brand deals on my own, at least towards the end of the year. And it is hard. I go back and forth between like, should you get a manager? Should you represent yourself? Because I will say, I think I'm a pretty good negotiator for myself. No one knows you like yourself. No one knows like what you're willing to work for like yourself. No one advocates quite as well as yourself in some ways. But I also think it is, again, a lot of emotional energy. It can be very kind of disheartening when a brand is like, sorry, you don't get enough views, so you're not worth it. And like it can really impact your self-worth, honestly. So it is something that I want to continue not necessarily doing myself. I also think sometimes brands take you more seriously when you have a manager. So there's pros and cons to it. But I will say, I think I was a pretty fierce negotiator for myself and I was able to make myself a lot of money last year. Now, it's not down significantly. It's down, maybe 10% or something like that. But it is something that I do want to actively work at boosting again. I would love to beat last year, next year, because I think there is just so much opportunity, right? These big brands, they have the money. And frankly, it feels a lot better funding my content from brands than knowing that I have to sell a course every time I post a video or whatever that might mean, like passing that cost along to you, essentially, the viewer. I would rather have a brand fund my content just because they have the money and if it's a product or service that's genuinely going to help you too, I just see it as a win-win. So that is something that I'm looking to amplify next year. Hopefully we can do it. We shall see. And what I'm going to do to hopefully do that is post more videos again, be happier in my videos, continue to work with my new management to make sure that they really understand the value that I bring and how to message that and all of that, hopefully maintaining my relationships with my existing sponsors and making them happy, always trying to be creative about new ideas to get them more conversions and stuff. So yeah, there's that. And then affiliate income. Affiliate income. Now, this is one thing I'm very proud of because last year when I made this video, I said I really want to boost that number, and I did. My affiliate income is up pretty significantly this year, and that was a big intention that I set because similar to brand deals, I was like, wow, my eyes were really opened. Last year, I was invited to Honeybook's Partner Summit. I actually did a keynote there. I got asked to do a keynote because apparently I was one of the top, I think, 3 affiliates for Honeybook, which is like mind-blowing to me because I'm just a small little creator in my eyes. And again, that was not something that I like actively pushed. I just talk about Honeybook when it is genuinely helpful. When somebody asks a question, they're like, oh, I need a client management system. Cool, you should use Honeybook. I do videos when it naturally comes up. And so I was really proud of that. And I saw the power of it. Because again, it's like, if I'm one of the top affiliates and I didn't even try that hard, what if I do try that hard? And so I did some things this year differently. I mean, honestly, not really. I really started this past year being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do all these things different. I'm going to do all this affiliate stuff. And I did a couple of them, but honestly, it was kind of business as usual. But I'll tell you what I did differently. Number one, I made a free course with Flowdesk. Basically, you could join free. It's called Email is for Everyone. I'm actually selling it now, but I did it for free actually because they did some like affiliate bonus type of thing earlier in the year. And I was like, let me capitalize on that. I'll take the same format as my best-selling course, the Social Media Management Accelerator, and I'll run a cohort-based email course. And basically the admission fee is like sign up for Flowdesk and I'll get the affiliate kickback. Now, that actually didn't go as planned. I was actually kind of disappointed by it because so many people just attended for the free information and didn't even sign up for Flowdesk. So that didn't work quite as planned, but we're going to see how that goes now that I am selling that course and see if that results in more affiliate income. I did, however, do a free course about coaching that was exclusive to the Freelance Friday Club. I believe I'm going to be selling that to the public now. And that one did get me a lot of HoneyBook affiliate links, leads, whatever, sales. Something else that I do, so with the Social Media Management Accelerator, that's my number one best-selling course. It's a cohort-based course, so it's live, group environment, really, really fun. I added some co-working days for the tools that I teach. So I teach Metricool, which is one of the sponsors of the podcast, and I also teach HoneyBook. And so we get together, co-work. I share the link a bunch of times and say, hey, this is something you can use. You don't have to. It's not like required. But I think just giving people that hands-on face-to-face help encourages them to sign up for it. Because sometimes it's like you sign up for a new tool and then you're like, it's too overwhelming. I don't actually know how to use this. And then it just sits and collects dust. So by incorporating it into the course and really giving that hand-holding, I think that helped me sell more HoneyBook memberships and stuff like that. Now, this year, I would like to continue boosting this number again, because like I said, it's a true win-win revenue stream in that I'm recommending things that people are going to like, that's genuinely going to help them. And I don't have to do any of the fulfillment, the customer service on the back end. If somebody's unhappy with it, I don't have to deal with asking for refunds and stuff like that. Like, it's really nice. But HoneyBook is changing their affiliate program this year, which I'm a little nervous about because it might mean less sales for me. And so, yeah, next year I want to just expand my affiliate relationships and look through and figure out who offers the best payouts, what is going to be the most useful to people. Also, I know Amazon billionaires, all that kind of stuff, but I am a part of Amazon's affiliate program, and I have noticed that those payments going up this year as well, just because I've been a little bit more conscientious about linking things. Like when people ask for a makeup product or a camera gear, a piece of camera equipment, I just make sure that I use an affiliate link. And so I want to continue to build out. They have like influencer storefronts, I think they're called. So I want to build those out with not just my camera equipment and podcast stuff, but like stuff I use in my day-to-day life. So it's easy for me to find and for me to share. So those are some things I'm going to be working on this year. I overall am feeling good. It was a little bit of a down year. I'm a little bit in my flop era, but I just am already feeling it. Okay. I'm feeling good about the year ahead. I'm in such a better headspace than I was this time last year. I am genuinely very, very happy and just really excited. I also feel like having balance just makes it better, right? I've been able to taste the fruits of my labor this year, which in years past I haven't. In years past, I have been crawling to the finish line. Like this time last year, I was like, I gotta book a vacation because I'm literally going to lose my mind. Like full transparency, I was honestly considering checking myself into like like a rehab, not for like abusing things, but just for like my brain. Like that's how burnt out and stressed out and depressed and anxious I was. This year I'm like, amazing. I'm ready. Like bring it on. Bring on January. So all that to say, just like your health, your well-being has a reward as well. It has a value to it, even if you did a little bit less financially than you did last year. So just keep that in mind and come to my vision board workshop if you want to really set those intentions and start the new year with friends, start the new year right. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I will have those details in the show notes for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you as always. I appreciate you watching my videos, subscribing, listening to the podcast. If you have a second and you wouldn't mind reviewing the podcast on Spotify or Apple, it really helps out a lot as well. And I'll talk to you in my next one. Bye.